All right, guys. I promised I would post a um, lecture video. I've done that. This particular lecture video is one I did when we were doing an older PowerPoint, but basically they're the exact same. Um, but also there is an updated PowerPoint if you want to look at the updated PowerPoint that's there as well. But I also wanted to give a few instructions on the actual assignment for these sentence revisions. So if you'll take a look at that, of course, you also have your Mind Tap assignment for your chapter as well as another grammar quiz. But for this, it's kind of like what we did last week in class. There's going to be a number of sentences they ask you to revise or label a certain way. So this first one, 5.1, it's just asking you for these first five sentences to label them. Are they simple? Are they compound? Are they complex? So literally on your Word document, number one, and that particular one, Americans pride themselves on their informality. That's simple. So you could just simply type number one, simple. For 5.2, we're looking for what type of fault it is. Is it a fragment? Is it a run-on? Is it a comma splice? So for number one, it says, although they began as a side business for Disney and they make that stop in sentence, that in itself is not a sentence. So that's a fragment. So 1 through 5, we're going to just simply label them number one, fragment number two, whatever the fault is. 5.3, they're asking you to pick which one you feel like is more emphatic. And so for number one, you can just simply put one, or you could simply put two, whichever one you think is more emphatic. And then for 5.4 and 5.5, after watching the video and reading through your text, you'll understand a little bit more about active versus passive voice. But basically, active voice is the subject is actually performing the action. So, for example, if I said Travis found a mistake, Travis is the subject. He found it. He actually performed the action. So that would be active. Most business writing, most writing should be done in active voice. But once in a while, when we're wanting to take away the emphasis of who did it, in other words, if I didn't want to really advertise that it was Travis, so bring attention to the fact that it was Travis that made an error, maybe instead of finding an error, we could say instead of Travis made an error, we could say an error was made by Travis, and that would be passive voice. So here they're asking you in these three sentences under 5.4 to change them all to active, and then do the reverse in 5.5. Parallelism, great tool, really helps with making sure that your writing is has good readability, and so they're giving you some suggestions on there on what to make parallel. The PowerPoint will help tremendously with that. And then on 1 through 3, we're rewriting and as well, and making sure we're getting rid of misplaced modifiers. So as always, if you have any trouble, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. And this, like I said, with the two Mind Tap assignments is all that you have for this week. If you have any trouble with this, or if you had trouble last week with anything that you needed to submit, make sure you reach out to me.